And okay, so we are now streaming, and I will call the meeting to order. Roll call. So we have Richard and Lawrence on. We have Dawn, Elia, Kelly, and welcome, Brad.
Thank you.
So I guess with that, we can go into the introduction of Brad. I believe everyone is familiar with Brad, but if you have a few words that you want to say there, Brad, you're welcome to.
Hey, well, thank you for having me on here. It's very important for us as Thrive Tours and as myself to be able to be a part of the tourism landscape here in Sault Ste. Marie and add any value that I can to the board. I am originally from Oneida Nation of the Thames, which is a little bit of a distant First Nations from here, but a lot of the philosophies are very similar. So we always like to start off in a good way, and I think I've met quite a few of you through different interactions, and I'm just really happy to be moving forward with all of you and putting whatever type of support and efforts that I can towards the board. Thank you much.
Excellent. Well, welcome to the board, Brad.
Yeah.
Approval of the minutes. Did everyone have a chance to go through the March 17th open board meeting minutes? Were there any questions or concerns? Okay, if I could ask for a mover on the approval of the March 17th minutes, then please. Kelly, and a seconder.
I will.
And all in favor of approval for those minutes? Great. Does anyone on the call today, after reviewing the agenda, have declaration of pecuniary interests? Everyone is all good. Okay, so we'll move into the new business. We'll do Travis or Alana. I'll turn it over to you for a tourism update.
Great. Hi, everybody. Welcome back from Travis and I to the board. I'll start with some quick updates. I believe everybody has the chance to have the dashboard report. I'll go through some of the highlights for you. From the cycling side, just to let the board know, we have submitted 2 of the funding applications for additional funds to Infrastructure Canada under the Active Transportation Fund, as well as through NOHFC Enhance Your Community Stream. So both of those funding applications are submitted, and we're just awaiting next steps from the funding agents to see where they land. Relative to the Agua Canyon Tour Train, conversations are continuing with Watco. We have confirmed that they're looking at running the train this year from August 1st to October 15th. With that, our staff is continuing to engage with various tour groups to try and confirm with them their interest in the train this year. So we're continuing to pursue that, and everything looks quite promising. We're getting ready right now as staff to attend Rendezvous Canada in Toronto in May, which is one of the largest trade show media marketplaces for the international market. Right now, what we're doing is vetting potential tour operators and media to make matches to see where we can host appointments, either in person or virtually. So we'll be attending in both capacities. We have the opportunity to request up to 100 appointments, which we will do. And then from that, it's a 2-way matching system. So if any of those appointments match with our request, then we will confirm appointment times with them during Rendezvous. So it's an exciting time to get back out into the marketplace and try and secure not only the tour groups that we've been working with over the years, but potential new operators that may be interested in traveling to the Soo. We will be promoting various itineraries at Rendezvous, including Indigenous itinerary, Lake Superior Coastal Drive, and of course the Agua Canyon Tour Train. With that as well, we're looking this summer a very promising return to the cruise ship industry. I've been working quite closely with the cruise lines to develop new itineraries as well as enhancing what they've already got. So we have 32 stops planned at our port this year, which is great. Of those, some are only here for a few hours. Some are here for the duration of the full day. So what we're doing is making custom itineraries that they can sell on board to the passengers to fill the time while they're here. On the cruise ships, we expect there to be close to 6,000 passengers combined, just with the stops here in Sault Ste. Marie. With that, several of them will be attending our local attractions, the Ermitinger Clerg Historic Site, Sioux Locks Canal, Bush Plain Museum. We're working with them to create a bus tour loop that will go through the downtown core, stopping at different restaurants and over to the Canal District. So there's lots of new itineraries, very exciting. And the cruise ships are most interested in getting back onto the water and looking forward to coming to Sault Ste. Marie. Those were the highlights that I had from the dashboard. I'm not sure if anybody has any questions or anything else that they'd like to share.
All right, Elena, what were the dates for Rendezvous Canada?
Rendezvous is running May 24 to 27.
Thank you.
Is that live or Zoom?
It'll be a combination. It's a hybrid event, pushing mostly towards in-person where possible.
So somebody is going down from tourism?
Yes, we do have staff from tourism that will be going down, as well as staff that will be doing the virtual component.
Okay. And one further question is on the cruise ships, the 32, are they all on Canada or part of them are across the river?
That is just the Canadian stops. There's the equivalent on the US side. Several of them will be spending half a day here and then going over to the US, but those are just touch points here on our side.
Oof, 32 on our side? Holy jump. Yeah. That's amazing.
On the tourism standpoint, Thrive Tours has been invited to the Outdoor Adventure Show. That is happening in Toronto, April 29th and May 1st. And then we'll also be at RVC promoting ourselves and the area for Indigenous tourism through ITO, through the ITO booth. So I definitely know that we'll be getting a lot of interest, and I'll definitely be talking up all of our other partners, the ones that we know of, to boost interest in itinerary build.
That's great, Brad. What is the dates of the adventure show again?
It is April 29th to May 1st.
Coming up.
I think there's going to be a great amount of interest, and if we can bring anything from Sault Ste. Marie Tourism there with us, we will be happy to share some of those things as well.
Perfect. I'll connect with you afterwards.
Glenn, I have a question about the tour. Like, now that we know that with the potential landing dates for these cruise ships, we know, like I know I mentioned before about having some sort of I don't know, package of entertainment or something to greet the boat. But I guess now that we know the dates, who takes charge on that, I guess?
Yeah, John, that's a great point. We have been working with city staff as well as the Downtown Association to look at the dates that the ships are here and to see what we can do under the pavilion on those dates that make sense. Salvatore from the Downtown Association is looking at redoing the marketplace with some vendors from the GTA. So I think that that's something that's in progress. Beyond that, if we wanted to look at something else, certainly open to ideas, but we are looking at reinstating the marketplace under the pavilion on specific days where the ship's here long enough.
Now, I know previously to COVID, they would have like an evening where they would have local bands and stuff playing for whomever showed up down at the pavilion. Can we maybe make those dates coincide?
Yeah, so those dates are preset for the summer concert series. I think the challenge with modifying those dates is oftentimes the tour boats, may not be here for the evenings, depending on their itineraries. So we would have to reshuffle all of that. And, I think that would be a whole new budget item. We wouldn't do away with the summer concert series, over to move it to the tour boats. So it would be a whole new line item. And
I'm not saying we got to juggle everything this year or whatnot, but I know that as we plan for these things, I know in the past, that there was maybe very little activity. I know that one of the things that we had talked about prior to this tourism board, was hearing complaints that, the boat would be here, but the mall, say, for example, was closed early, right? So you had a captive audience, but they really, they don't have anything to do or whatever, right? So that's, I guess that's what I'm getting at, right? Is, I know that we've sunk some money into, deepening the port there, or looking at deepening the port to accept boats or whatever. But maybe I don't know if I guess would fall under our umbrella to say, okay, what kind of itinerary can we plan so that whether the boat is here for a short period or whatever, I think once we know what the landing dates are, they're pretty specific on, we're going to be here between this time and this time, or we're porting overnight or whatever it is, and then plan accordingly, so that, at least we can engage them somehow and maybe get them to spend a little bit more money here.
Yeah, absolutely, Don. And I think what we're going to be looking forward or looking to on a go forward basis is, I think ideally we'd set up seasonal tourism shops, maybe along Bondar Marina, continuing up Spring Street to the new plaza. But, it could be seasonal pop-up shops where you might have local artisans selling products, or, food truck or food vendors, Sault Ste. Marie specific merchandise, but something exactly for that reason, to kind of provide those that are, coming off the cruise ships, or those that are just walking along the boardwalk with, some new activation, and as you said, somewhere else to spend some money back in the community.
Okay, I know, like I said, I know you guys got lots on your plate, so I know I always like to keep some thoughts in the forefront.
Yeah, absolutely, and you'll see probably at the next council meeting a bit of a pilot project coming forward on that, but we'll hang tight until after May 2nd, and I can tell you about it.
Okay.
So based on that, you guys, is there no formal welcome plan for the ships the cruise ships that are coming in?
To that point, Kelly, not a formal welcome plan. So with the cruise ships, there's a bit of a challenge in the sense that when they arrive at port, there's a series of time that can range from anywhere from 20 minutes to 2 hours where customs on board to clear the ship. And then from that point, a large majority of the passengers quickly off board the ship to get on their coaches to go for their day excursions. So it's a challenge, and it's certainly open to ideas on how to best manage it. But the challenge is, as soon as customs gives them their clearance, they're lined up in corrals waiting to step off the boat and go to do their excursions. Now, with that being said, there are some that stick around that will walk the boardwalk, want to date some of the walking paths, but the large number of them leave. So to have a formal welcome would be a challenge. Not sure how best to manage that, and certainly open to ideas, but that's what we've encountered. And so we looked at with the markets, having the DTA do their marketplace either the pavilion when they're returning back to port. So once they've done their excursions and they're coming back, they have some extra time, they're on site, and then they do their shopping and then hop on the boat to be able to leave. We found just from experience that plan works better. When we had them there in the morning, they were just overlooked and walked away. So
just on that, sorry to interrupt, but that's what was communicated to us. We recently had a programmer from
from American Cruise Lines.
American Cruise Lines that came to town, and their suggestion was, you know, as the cruise ship passengers come back at lunch, make sure that you have the programming in the afternoon. So that was kind of their preference, because as Alana said, she said that there's a big lineup as soon as they get off the boat to hop on the buses and start hitting the cultural attractions and other attractions that they're going to.
Yeah, no, that's all very fair. Good points. You know, I just feel like there's a huge opportunity to involve the entire community in something like this. And, you know, I think making sure that we have that information out to the public, dates that these ships will be coming in, and working with our community partners to create that atmosphere that has these ships wanting to return time and time again.
Absolutely. And I think you're absolutely bang on. There's a ton of opportunity. And I think, you know, as we head into next year, we might want to look at some infrastructure investments in terms of, you know, potential pop-up shops that would be available. So this year, just as an example, this year, the city purchased, I think, a half a dozen retrofitted sea cans or shipping containers that are available. They're going out for RFP right now. So people are able to submit their proposals for, you know, whether it's products, so it could be clothing, you know, arts and crafts, what have you, or it could be food vendors. So, you know, it might be something that we want to look at in the future, where, you know, potentially Tourism Sault Ste. Marie purchase a few of those shipping containers and then runs a similar process so that we have seasonal vendors. Because I do think activating the boardwalk is a great way to extend visitor stay and just round out the experience in Sault Ste. Marie. You look at downtown Sault, Michigan, you know, rather than pop-up shipping containers, they have all these seasonal stores that, you know, keep people in the downtown through the summer months, and a number of them shut down over the winter. So I think trying to replicate that, maybe without complete storefronts, might be a good option going forward.
Not on this issue, but can I ask, is our brochure, when we are going to get it out and about?
Yep, so I can speak to that, Richard. We have a hard copy proof in our hands, waiting for a final sign off, hopefully tomorrow. And we should have it turned around within 2 weeks and then distributed for the opening of the travel information centers beginning of May.
Okay. A related question is what's the hotel's policy on putting pamphlets out in the lobby now that COVID is supposedly over?
If you give it to me, I'll put it out.
Yeah. It's surprising, Richard, how many people ask for things, be it pamphlets or, you know, want to browse things. Like I'm a big fan. I've seen them. You know, they have these kiosks where people can kind of scroll through things and whatnot. I've seen in different trade shows that you know, that they get good engagement and stuff. But I know if anything that's been brought to me, I always put it out. Like, you know, people want to know, so we have it available.
They're a fabulous book. We have them readily available here in our lobby too, but they're also a good speaking point, you know, when we're showcasing various areas of our community. So lots of engagement that way. And again, taking the book and using that for a visual on certain touch points that we're speaking of is super helpful.
Great. I think everyone is going to be quite impressed with the guidebook this year. We did a little bit of a complete redesign, but very focused on photos and easy information that the consumer can just grab it and go. Very colorful, very fresh. We're quite excited about it.
Good.
Yeah, I'll tell you that if you got really impressive photos, I found that people just take them as their souvenir.
Exactly.
Always have to ask for more.
We designed the book this year around being very photo heavy.
We could also work through. Do we have any idea as to any Indigenous engagement during the offboarding of those passengers at all?
So what we do, Brad, is we have specific itineraries that have Indigenous elements in them. The Lake Superior Coastal Drive definitely has some interpretive components up at Lake Superior Provincial Park.
Yeah.
They have the opportunity to visit the pictographs for the ones that are here for the day experiences. And then what we're working on right now is adding in some extra elements for our local attractions. I know some of our attractions, Ermitinger, Clerg, and the Bush Plane Museum, both have an Indigenous element that they're looking at. So it's definitely present, but open to extra ideas as well.
Okay. Yeah, I can definitely put in some ideas there.
You know what, I have an idea, and maybe Brad, you were thinking the same thing, but like I know, being from Europe, a lot of Europeans are interested in native items, whether it's arts and crafts, culture, and all that kind of stuff. I think it'd be awesome if when they're getting off or when they're coming back, if you have like a drumming group or
That's kind of
the dance or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, I do know
Right.
quite a few of those, and I can certainly talk more about that if that's an interest of yours.
No, that's great. I'm just making some notes here for follow-up. Thanks, guys. One more point as well that I should mention, our guide is online right now on our website. It is available digitally. So you can see the new 2022 guide on our website.
Awesome. Thanks, Alana. Anybody else have any questions or concerns with regards to the tourism update and dashboard? Okay, so moving through our agenda to new business item B, we have the Tourism Development Fund application, and we've received an application from Festival of Beer.
Yes,
Everybody was provided with the scoring matrix, but if you guys could walk us through the idea of it and how we came to that, that'd be great.
Excellent, I can do that. So this is an application made under the special events stream through the Tourism Development Fund. The application is for the Sault Ste. Marie Festival of Beer. The proponent is Steve Alexander. He has submitted his application and I will share the details on his behalf. The name of the organization hosting the event is Lots Lounge. The Festival of Beer summary reads as follows. So the Festival of Beer is a 2-day festival primarily focused on giving patrons the opportunity to sample various craft beers, offset by programming such as prizing, games, food, and concerts. This year, they'll be featuring the White Cowbell Oklahoma band that has over 5,000 followers on their social platform. The event this year will host 20 craft breweries representing over 100 different beers. This is the 10th year of the festival. Traditionally in the past, it has been primarily a local event. They're looking to grow and expand it to attract people from within the region and into Michigan. Their target audience will be Sudbury, North Bay, Timmins, and the UP of Michigan. The plan as presented, they're expecting to attract approximately 100 guests from out of town. They have a strong collaboration with local vendors and suppliers. From our side, it does touch the point of culinary tourism, which is an area that we're looking to try and support. They are using the Bush Plane Museum as their host venue. Due to COVID, the event has not been held since 2019. 2020 tickets were sold, but the event wasn't hosted, so those tickets will be honored for this year. The plan as presented went through our evaluation rubric. It scored 56 on the assessment. The original ask for the Festival of Beer was for 9,450. After going through the evaluation, we're recommending $5,000, and that falls in line with other events that have submitted with a score around that number, around the 56. We're recommending that. Yeah, I will go through the matrix line by line. We're recommending that the contribution be to support expenses related to the rental of the Bush Plane Museum, rental of the glassware, and then their out-of-town advertising for social media, radio, and print promotions. For the matrix itself, we'll go through the categories, and I'll share with you where the assessment line.
And just on that, before Alana does, Brad, since you haven't been through this process previously for events, we have a different evaluation criteria, and we could share with you the documentation just so you can see how it's tabulated. Alana will run through it in detail, but just if you want to see.
Yeah, I'd like to see that.
I think it was included in the board package, the evaluation matrix.
Okay, I'll take a look.
Did everybody get it?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. There's a lot of things, I can tell if you got it or not.
Travis, can I ask a question now that that's been identified? Do I have a conflict being on the board at the Bush Plane?
I don't think you would because it's a host venue.
Yeah, you're not.
I mean, yeah, we're not, I mean, other than the rental, I mean, we don't have any interest in it, but I just better raise that question.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a fixed fee rather than like you have no upside in this. It's not like you're getting.
We do not.
Well, and the Bush Plane's already been decided as the host venue. If you were still in the running as a host venue, I might look at it differently, but if they've already committed to hosting it there, then the impact of this is irrelevant to whether or not the event takes place at the Bush Plane, correct? Yeah, I don't think that there's much conflict there.
Okay.
Go ahead, Alana. Sorry.
No, go ahead. I was just gonna go through the matrix, Beth, so if you have something, go ahead.
Well, no, I was just going to ask, do we know in the past, you said that it's primarily been a local event. Do we know what they've had for out-of-town visitors in the past?
So they haven't tracked a lot of information other than ticket sales and postal codes tied to tickets. So it's been difficult to know from their side whether people came specifically for the event or they were in town visiting and went to the event.
Okay.
So we're recommending that they definitely spend a little bit more time this year tracking data so that we can follow the efforts of the external marketing.
Okay, excellent.
So traditionally they have not marketed out of town. So what they're looking for is funding to be able to push it out to the region, and then we can track whether or not that was successful.
All right, I'll leave it with you then.
Okay, so the visitor days, this is the overall number of people participating, including locals. So they're estimating 1,500 over 2 days, gives them the full score of 20. Out of town guests, they're estimating, they put 300 down as their ultimate goal. This number wouldn't really fluctuate too much if it changed between 100 to 300. The score stays approximately the same. We gave them a number of 6. The opportunity for growth, we put this one as good opportunity. I wouldn't say it's in the high category because there are lots of beer festivals across the province, but for Sault Ste. Marie, it is the only one that we have. So it is a good potential for us to continue to grow it out. The reach of the event, we put it as regional, not thinking that there would get too many folks traveling from, plus or minus 4 hours is what we use as our number. The economic impact is quite low, just simply because they don't have a high budget, and it's predominantly locals right now. The utilization of local services, attractions, and suppliers, because this is a craft beer festival, there's lots of vendors, there's entertainment, multiple venues. So we did give them a score of 10. It falls in the season of May, which gives them a point score of 4. We're going to market it across the region and touching into the province. So we gave them a score of 3. It has been held frequently, so it's not a new event. It has a score of 1 in that category. And it has some alignment with our priority sector, and that's the culinary tourism strategy. So a score of 3. Overall, a score of 56 falls within the range of 40 to 59 at a range of $5,000. Any questions related to the matrix?
Kelly,
Okay.
go ahead.
With regards to out-of-town participants and the media exposure, is there enough history here to actually score these areas?
The media exposure is based on what we're planning to do this year. So we know that if the TDF funds are secured, that money will be used for marketing out of the region. And then the out-of-town participants is based on a best guess.
I'd
So
be comfortable.
say we were to make that 100, it would give it only 2 points instead of the 6, bringing it down to the 4, and it would still be within that matrix, correct?
Still falls within that range, exactly.
Okay. Even if we gave it a 0, it'd still fall at 50.
Just to make sure that I guess from an integrity standpoint, there isn't any backup there to actually score that area. I would feel more comfortable marking the out-of-town participants at 0 because there isn't any history to confirm or deny that we're going to be able to achieve any number there. Obviously, ideally, we'd like to grow that and make it a reason for people to want to visit. But for this evaluation, I believe that should be marked at 0.
So, Kelly, just to speak to that, there are a few events that we've approved where we didn't have a history for. If you were to look at Lawrence, put your earmuffs on, but if you were look at the Beaver Freezer or forget, we've had a couple more that have come through. These are coming to me right now, where they're first-time events. So we have to go off some degree of projection in terms of what they're able to attract. So that's why we've got it right now. If there's a recommendation on, what else could we put in place of that, then certainly we'd be open to that. We just haven't been able to, when we were looking at the matrix originally, we weren't able to determine what else we should put in place for the evaluation.
Yeah, I'm not going to argue that point. It's a very good one. I just believe as I get more comfortable on the board and in my role here, it's just something that's come to my observation as being possibly a concern when we're dealing with, obviously financial matters and commitments.
For sure.
I think it's a good point, Kelly. If I can share as well, and this is up to the board to look at too, but when we do the Tourism Development Fund applications and the approvals, once they've been approved at the city council level, there is an agreement that is done between the city and the applicant. And in there is a listing of requirements of what the funds are eligible for and what they're intended to be used. A reminder that they're paid up front and then resubmitted back. So the risk level is quite low that way. And there's a required component for a follow-up report that indicates how those funds were used and if it was successful. So there are steps that kind of come after this that can give us a lot more of that information on a go forward.
Alana, can we specify in that we would like that tracking? We would like to know what the out-of-town visitor specifically was.
Correct. Yes.
With regards to that. So I would think that is definitely one of the matrices in this condition that, or in this situation, that we would definitely want to know in that follow-up report. Kelly, I can appreciate where you're coming from. 300 sounds like a high number when we have no idea what they've done before. I think I would have a bigger concern if the other matrices didn't line up and if the scoring put it sort of on that bubble. So if it was closer to 40 or right at that 40, that would make the difference between the funding amount. In this particular case, it falls right within the middle of the range. So I think that we can take some comfort in that even if we did mark it as a 0, it's still going to fall in at 50 and fall within that funding area. Is that something that you feel comfortable with, Kelly?
Yeah, and I took that into consideration as well. It's just more from an integrity standpoint. Additionally, I mean, I'm a neighboring hotel to the Bush Play Museum. So if we had 300 out of town visitors coming in, you know, that would be amazing. So wholeheartedly, I support the event. It's just from a financial standpoint, being, you know, approximately, you know, less than 30 days out from the event, it just seems a little late in the process to be requesting funding from the board. So I'm just trying to get a better understanding of you know, the evaluation, but at the same time, you know, their request and what they're requesting this money for.
Kelly, that's fair, and let us take it back internally to see what other checks and balances we could include. You know, one of the ones from my side that springs to mind, independent of the number of visitors, is confirmation of, you know, call it the analytics on the marketing. You know, just confirmation in terms of, you know, how many, if they're using social media, how many views, geographic distribution, what have you, just so we can confirm, you know, the appropriateness of the marketing spend. And I do think, you know, hypothetically speaking, let's say we're not able to address your issue up front. You know, when we do get those reports, post-project reports, then at least that would inform us for the following year. So let's say 2023, they come back for another application and it turns out they've only got 30 out-of-town visitors. Then we would use that as our model, you know, I think in terms of the data point for evaluating their next TDF application. And I appreciate that doesn't address your upfront concern, but you know, it's at least one mechanism that we have on a go-forward basis. And again, just give us a bit of time. We'll dig into this one and we'll see what other options we could include to kind of address your concerns.
Yeah, no, I think you're on point. For me, it's not that I don't support the event. I think it's a fabulous one and really gives people a good reason to come and visit. Again, I just think that, you know, from a board standpoint, we just have to become more confident in our intention for saying yes and saying no when, you know, we're being sought after for financial, you know, yeah, for financials in general.
So Travis, I think you bring up a good point in that. So as we track history, maybe we should be developing a database to say, okay, this is what happened on these particular events, so that you have a database to measure against similar projects, and then we'll have a better comfort level on how projects are coming together and the criteria to measure them against. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's a great idea. And I think that there's a lot of events that have been really successful. You know, pick on Lawrence again, but you know, I thought that was a really great event in terms of, you know, how he was able to connect with out-of-town markets. And, you know, there might be an opportunity, I'm not going to speak for the event organizers, but, you know, where there's a little, depending on the degree of qualifications, even some producing some, you know, best models in terms of how to operate an event, how to, you know, direction on marketing, engagement, what have you. Because I think that there's a lot of really successful event organizers out there, and then you've got others that are doing their best, but they just don't have the expertise. And, you know, for lack of a better term, they could really benefit from a, you know, a level of mentoring, or at least best practices that we could share with them.
Could I maybe make a suggestion that we add a scoring item for like, you know, and I don't know how it would work, but because I mean, there's going to be these types of events that are driver events that, you know, the goal is to grow it out and make it big, or be specifically geared to attracting a specific subset. And again, I'll use Lawrence's race, right? I mean, there's only so many people locally that would participate in a race such as that. The goal is to attract other people from other places to come race here, stay, and all that kind of stuff, right? And then there's going to be these types of events that I would probably consider complementary events, that necessarily people, the goal of the event is to put on an event that can complement or give reason for somebody who's already here to further explore the community, right? So for example, like, you know, if I have somebody in my hotel on the date of the beer festival, they didn't come here for the beer festival per se, but, you know, they come to me and they say, okay, Don, what can I do tonight? I say, hey, why don't you go check out the beer festival, right? So, like, you know, I think it still falls into what we're trying to do here to support, financially speaking, these, what I would consider complementary events, but maybe there's a different way of scoring it so that we can put it into perspective, right? Because when I first saw the board package, my first thought was, well, there's probably some sort of craft beer festival anywhere you go nowadays, right? So I don't know if it'll be considered a driver event, but it's still something we're supporting because it gives somebody that's already in town for whatever reason something to do, right? And further engage in the community.
It's an enhancement.
Yeah, like, you know, so like, you know, for me, I look at that and say, like, you know, I'm not looking at, you know, just to take my hotelier hat off, because I got Kelly, right? I mean, if there's 300 people coming from out of town, it's good for me, right? But taking my hotelier hat off, having enhancements, because, you know, I don't know about everybody. When I travel, I always ask, you know, what's there to do? What's there? It's just because I've been in the business for so long, right? And the worst answer is when you get somebody just shrug their shoulders and say, oh yeah, there's not really much to do here. This place sucks. I don't even know why you're here, right? I mean, you know, we want to encourage these kind of complementary events so that when somebody asks you, we can say, well, you know what? Why don't you go check out the beer fest? Why don't you go see Brad and go on a canoe trip? Or, you know what I mean? Like, those are the kind of things, like, you know, not necessarily that they, you know, because there's similar events that may be going on or similar people going on, but I mean, it's things that complements the overall tourism package or the tourism experience that we could provide to people. And I think it is things that we should be supporting, you know, to, you know, so that people get a better experience, right? They come here, they're not just sitting up in the room, they go to dinner at Giovanni's and go home and wrap it up for the night, right? You know, we want to engage them in this other kind of stuff. And I think this is something that can be that, you know, it may not necessarily become, like, you know, a huge beer festival of the world where people are traveling from all over the world. But I tell you what, you know, if they had it during peak tour season, I'll guarantee you a lot of the guys that are here, whether on those buses or things, they'll probably go down and check it out, right? And it gives them something else to engage and spend more money on the community.
So
That just reminds me, Jason, thank you for, I'm just sorry, I wanted to talk about safety. So the beer festival, I know that's something that, you know, we ask our guests that, you know, obviously they've, you know, they're, you know, they've been sober and, you know, they, you know, because obviously we're operating watercraft and, you know, and all various different types. But I was just thinking that, do we have an idea as to how, you know, how this would be managed? I've also worked in bars and seen, you know, how things can sort of degrade quickly if there's a copious amount of alcohol beverages. So I just wanted to know, do we have an idea as to what the safety plan would be and what in the past in other municipalities for these type of festivals, what type of police presence and such would need to be activated in order to have all of this here?
Yeah, so Brad, I'll to the extent that I can address those issues. I mean, all of these servers will be licensed under Smart Serve. So, you know, they'll have the criteria of, you know, monitoring drinks consumed and, you know, not continuing to serve people that are visibly inebriated. You know, we'll be looking at some degree of security on site. For a number of these events, other than the notices that go out, there's not a direct outreach to police services in terms of booking police officers for these events. And it's not something that we as Tourism Sault Ste. Marie or the city staff would get involved in. I think that when we look at the agreements, they'll have their own insurance and provide indemnification against us for these grants. But the overall security and practices are left with the event organizers. And given that the applicant here has run his own bars and other establishments and has been doing this event for a number of years, we know that they're well versed in the smart serve practices.
And they would have to have their permits through the Alcohol Gaming Commission as well. And I guarantee you the liquor inspector would be showing up for an event like this.
Yeah, absolutely. If I may, I wanted to go back to Dawn's comment real quickly, because it ties into something that I know Richard, Beverly, and Alana and I have been talking about, maybe added as new business once we're past this. But your comment about educating individuals about what's going on in the community, we'd like to talk about that following this issue related to training or education of frontline staff. So that's one item we'll park for right now, but we will talk about. The other item, Dawn, about every community has a beer fest, and I don't disagree with you there. What I think could be an opportunity, and it's one of the areas that staff intend to pursue with the applicant, is pre-COVID. There was another member of council over on the Sault Michigan side, and they own a bar over in that location. And so typically, I think it's every Christmas, city staff or senior city staff from both Sault Michigan and Sault Ontario meet. And we are interested at a very high level now about putting on an international beer festival. And I'll speak to this because there's no media present, but ideally what you get is the contact on the Sault Michigan side, inviting as many Michigan breweries as possible, and then our contact over here inviting as many Ontario breweries as possible, and then you'd have a shuttle bus in between that could bring people from both sides of the border to experience the event. And that's where I think supporting this event, at least at this stage locally, and then trying to kind of ease them into the direction of that international festival. And again, working with our US counterparts, I think could be a really big win if we're able to get there.
Yeah, I really like that idea. And I think, in the back of my mind, and I think in the back of everybody's mind, the more we can promote any of these types of events as international events and engage both sides of the river, I think is a win, because you can attract a bigger market.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll turn it back to Beverly. If you want to continue on this one.
Thanks, Travis. Does anyone else have any questions or concerns, or shall we move ahead? As Alana stated, the original ask was for $9,450 based on the matrix. The recommendation coming back is at $5,000. If there are no other concerns, then I can move forward with putting out a resolution.
I'll move it.
Oh, I haven't read it yet, Don.
Oh, so sorry.
Okay, so the resolution that would be brought forth for the TD application for the Sault Ste. Marie Festival of Beer 2022 would read as follows. Be it resolved that Tourism Sault Ste. Marie recommend a contribution of up to $5,000 through the Tourism Development Fund, conferences and special events streamed to support the Sault Ste. Marie Festival of Beer 2022, and that a report be submitted to the City Council for consideration and approval. Don, you move?
Yep.
Okay, do I have a seconder on that? Kelly? And all in favor? Okay, all in favor, motion has been carried. Travis, do you want to circle back and add a line item C on that development side under new business?
Yeah, so
Okay.
my apologies for not including this in earlier, but we had been discussing, and give credit to Richard, for some time now about organizing, call it an info session or an education session for frontline staff. And I think it could actually be, brought into, even restaurant tours and other attractions, but essentially have, a variety of the cultural attractions, maybe tour groups, even some of the events, provide a quick overview of what's going on this summer and into the fall. And it probably needs to be split up between 2 days, so we can kind of hit everybody, hopefully. But, essentially exactly what you were saying, Don, making sure that everybody is aware of what's going on in the community and what tourism offerings that we have, so that we don't have individuals, worst case scenario is they go to, Eli, I'll pick on you, like the canal, and, they're talking to somebody there and they're asking what's going on this weekend, and, shoulders are shrugged and that's the answer. So we want to make sure that everybody's educated on, our summertime activation, any special offerings that are going on, the bush plane, the museum, the art gallery, what have you. And then, even an overview of exactly this. We've got the Festival of Beers going on this weekend. We've got Poutine Feast coming up, Queen Street Cruise, all those items that we want everybody to be aware of, because you might have some visitors that are, maybe coming from Blind River or White River, what have you, and they're able to come back here, on any given weekend. And so I think we could get a lot of return visitors, or potentially just extend the stays, or, positive visitor experience of those that are already here. And for the life of me, Richard, I think we were talking about mid-May. Is that correct, timing wise?
Well, I'm going to throw it back to the hotelers, because I was reminded that, maybe some of the frontline staff is not in place until later in May, but I don't know the answer to that.
Can I just interject here? We did this a few years ago, back when Ian was still around. I approached him about this because I'm also very passionate about this piece of the puzzle, because I think it's one that we are missing. We have lots of turnover in those areas, right? Frontline staff. And Travis, if my team ever tells you that there's nothing going on in the city, you tell me, and I will. I will not. It's not. But anyway, like, for example, right now I can tell you I'm on mat leave, but at the canal they'll be opening up some new buildings with some new exhibits, and sometimes we're our own worst enemy because we don't put that stuff out there. But we did this a few years ago. I think Ian helped with organizing a bus, and we did kind of a pass so that people can come and explore freely over a certain amount of time. I also kind of, I don't want to say it flopped, but it's difficult because we're like, the attractions in particular are open a certain amount of time. Not everybody can make it in their shift or want to come on their own time, right? As frontline staff. And I've also offered, and at the time, so this is all changed, there's all new people at the table, but that I would be more than happy going into the hotel and doing a presentation to the staff so that they know what we offer and what we have. So I think we need to, it would be wonderful to do like one big thing, like one big fam tour for in the city. But I think there has to also be the opportunities for those that want to, send somebody into the hotels or to downtown association meeting, like those kinds of groups, to continually be front of mind and say, this is what we're doing, because it can change. And new things may come on the table that, we don't get out in time, or things will get sold out before we even get it out to the media and tell people what's going on. So Or some people might need a refresher mid-season because it could be all new staff. Same with in the fall. A lot of our staff are, university students and that sort of thing. They're going back to university, so you have kind of a whole new crop of frontline staff. And I just speak as my experience being one of those frontline staff in my university days. So I think it's a great idea, and I'm really happy to see this on the table. But I think it can be just not complicated, but some real good planning has to go in it so that we can get what we want out of it.
So Ilya, and well, I'll open up this up to everybody. Alana had made a recommendation, and just curious whether or not everybody thinks this would work. Like, in addition to doing kind of the face-to-face event, would it make sense to do a little video that could be used during orientation, or is that excessive, or do you think it would be a benefit?
I think it would be a
Well,
benefit
I think it-
as things happen. Sorry, Leah. I think it could be a benefit just because I would add to what Leah said is that you want it to be ongoing. Like, yeah, you can do it at the beginning of the season to remind people of the big things, but as things get added or as things change or, events become sold out or whatever it is, we want to be able to shift on the fly, right? And give people the most up-to-date information. Whether we use social media and we all engage in a central social media account where things can be posted and things can be pushed or retweeted or reposted, or however all that goes. But it certainly needs to be something that I think that is done more than just once because of turnover, because things change and things get added.
I think there's a great sense of community when you do it at the beginning of the season, and have kind of a big launch and a fan tour for the local. I know it's very much appreciated for frontline staff and that sort of thing. Yeah, I just think there does need to be a continual education piece, whether it's an information package through video or paper, whatever the best way to consume it. I just know that I would be on board with doing, outreach and that sort of thing. And making sure that people know that what we have, going on. And I'm sure the other attractions would be in the same boat. It might be better in video format just as a continual piece because they may not have capacity later in the season as they lose their frontline staff as well. But I do think it does need to be continual.
Okay.
Can I ask a question? So if you did a video though, and it's only a comment, I guess, is the video can't be very long, because if it's long, then the frontline staff's not going to pay too much attention to it. So I think it would be awful condensed in order to get all the attractions. That's just my comment, but I think it's a possibility. So.
It'd be a heck of a lot more
I know
fun
one
than
of
doing
the
the women's
things
training.
I know one of the things that I've been pushing my site to do, and this is for all the Parks Canada Northern Ontario sites, is our fact sheets that are just a simple kind of back and front piece of paper that tell you these are the hours, these are the highlights, these are our events, this is how you get to us, and that sort of thing. So, and just so our frontline staff at all of our sites in Northern Ontario know what's going on. So it all depends on how much that frontline person also wants to consume the information. It's up to them as well, right?
And Kelly, that's exactly what I was thinking as a trade show. Yes.
So I just put in the chat session to kick off the season at the train station with a trade show style event that would showcase all of what we're discussing, all of our attractions, all of the things to do in Sault Ste. Marie. Obviously we invite everybody, and those that can attend are going to have a really great time. Those that aren't unable to attend or who are not yet established in the industry, We can then utilize the video format that Alana suggested that I think is fabulous, you know, as needed for the future. But I think this is something that we could build on as an annual event.
Yes, and I think they had done that like in the past, like I'm talking like long time ago, where they did more of those trade show type formats. You know, at one point, Passport to Unity kind of served as that. I remember that about 10 years ago. There was the upper concourse that kind of had that stuff for just the community to know what's going on and that sort of thing. But yeah, there's definitely an education piece for our frontline staff that we're missing, and I'm more than happy to help work on it.
Well, and I mean, Richard, the other day when you referenced that the bush plane was open and that you had extended hours, again, if people aren't aware of those types of things happening, we won't ever think to recommend it or to direct it or even to look at it, right?
Yep.
You know, and I think that there's an opportunity as well to perhaps invite some of our food vendors and that are part of the culinary tourism to expand, or your brewers and that kind of thing to gain that exposure as well, because there are plenty of people locally that are working our front lines that aren't familiar with all of these different avenues that they have and resources locally. It's the Sioux, there's nothing to do.
You know, I found the one thing that all the staff that we always had good engagement is when they did that, the train did that thing when they were running in June, that right at the start of the season, the staff could ride for free. I know I had a lot of staff that did that over the years, and then they would buy the half price ticket, go with somebody or whatever to experience it. So I don't know, maybe a combination of things that, you know, use with like a kickoff event, like a trade style show event, because that would be fun, especially as we can get back together and all that kind of stuff. But certainly maybe working with some of the attractions or some of the things to have things that we could plug our staff into, right? Whether it's a pass to the bush plane or you know, a discounted voucher to try one of the culinary people. You know, I know one of the things that I always tell, try to put into my staff's mind, especially when somebody asks where do you want to eat, you know, ask a series of questions. You know, what do you want to eat? You know, are you hungry for steak? Are you hungry for pasta? Are you hungry for this? And then use
How much do you want to pay?
Whatever, yeah, just, you know, and just use your own experiences, right? Like, you know, say, I like this place. They make a good dish. This, you know, if you know the place and you can make a recommendation, chances are they're going to try it, and then engage them when you see them come back. Did you try it? How did you feel about it? And I think that's where you can build that relationship with that guest and help them engage in other things in the community, and they have that level of trust with them.
So can I circle back to a question that Travis raised, is when would be the most appropriate time to have this?
I would say probably towards the latter half of May. We have to be mindful of things like OBAs the last weekend in May and that kind of stuff, because as hoteliers, our staff are going to be needed over the weekend like that. But again, it doesn't even necessarily have to be a weekend thing. You know, it could be a midweek. And if you hit it midday, you could catch people between shifts if we don't think that 2 days would work. I say you leave it too far into June and you start hitting those June dates, we're going to be too far into it.
Okay.
Late May was my suggestion as well.
Yeah. Yes, and maybe not the 14th, except, you know, if the Festival of Beers was swinging something out to the team members, I'm sure they'd attend that.
Either that or do what I'm going to do. I'm going to make it mandatory for all frontline staff to go.
So I think overall we can agree that it's probably a good direction, something that everybody would be willing to put some effort into and support.
100%.
Okay. Alana, what direction do you want from that as far as, because I mean, obviously somebody's got to work to put it together.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks, Bev. Yeah, we'll take it back to our team, and we'll come up with some ideas, communicate with the board on some possible dates and
Okay.
possible options. Yep.
Okay. Okay, so if there is nothing else, was there anything that the board members wanted to bring out as an open table? Questions, comments?
I want to ask Lawrence how his race went. I saw some press on it, but didn't really hear on how the turnout went and all that stuff. That'd be great to hear.
Thanks, Don. The race went very well considering the weather. We had a kind of an ice storm the day of the event, so we had to call it on account of safety, and we postponed for a week. So the race itself had sold out. We were aiming for 250 participants. We got over 250. The day of the event, some people indicated they weren't going to be able to come, so they donated their registrations for other people to take on. And so we were able to increase our participation based on that. We had some bibs that weren't picked up. People said, well, I can't travel, so I won't be racing. So we actually went over the allotted number we had, even though we had the people already registered. So the day of the event, we had over 150 participants. We had over 80 volunteers come out and support the event. The feedback has been very positive. So I've collected everybody's postal code. I have all that data of where everybody came from. I can tell you their age, where they're from, their address, and so we have a good system in place for that. So we had just over 30 people from out of town registered for the race. So with that, they would then bring their families or at least 1 to 2 other people, which was great to see. Where they stayed, I'm not sure, but we did work with the Water Tower Inn. Thank you for that. We did our pre-registration there where people did their bid pickups. And it was really, really well received. The support from the community has been overwhelming. Everybody was quite positive about the event. JJ Hilsinger was really instrumental in having some parking areas cleared for us in Trout Lake. And so, yeah, we were very happy with that, and we'll do it again next year.
Awesome.
Lawrence?
I think just on that note, we raised some money for the trails, and I haven't got all the numbers in yet because with the postponement, some people may be asking for either a refund or a free entry for next year. So we're somewhere between $6,000 and $8,000 raised that is going to go directly to developing tourism for mountain biking and hiking in the area.
Fantastic.
Congratulations, Lawrence.
The one thing I'd like to really commend Lawrence for doing is organizing a race where people are coming from out of town, having them come to town, and then forcing them to come back. That's really been able to increase our hotel night stays. So I thought strategically, that was really well thought out. So thanks, Lawrence.
I'll do it again next year. Just make the weather crazy. Yeah.
We can skip the ice storm. I was busting ice out until 2 o'clock in the morning that night here at the hotel. So we'll skip the ice storm part, but. Okay, does anyone have anything else that they want to discuss? Otherwise, our next meeting is May the 19th. All good? Okay, I will call for a mover to adjourn today's meeting then. Kelly, and a seconder. Lawrence, and all in favor of calling it a day?